Hello, everybody. This is AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. This is Clutch with Keon Rose. Thank you for joining me today. As always, sunny day in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Sunny week, really. I'm Keon Rose, and we do this thing every day from 1 to 2 with Talk Some Sports, and it just looks like college football tomorrow. A buffet of games, a full slate of games, and it's really exciting. And I have some games, and we're going to talk about it as the show goes on, that I think that you ought to be watching tomorrow. It is tailored to right here. I am aware that this is Alabama week, and that is one of our games, and that's actually one of the games that we're going to start with. But before I jump into anything, I think I ought to let you know all of the different ways that you can interact with us and all of the places you can find us to listen to. You can interact with us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Simply search Hot News Talk Radio. We're the first thing that comes up. And we have videos on YouTube. You can listen to our classic episodes, You Never Say Old, and find us and comment. Leave us some comments. We'll respond. We'd love to contact you, find out what you're thinking. This is all about you. Contrary to popular belief that I'm here in front of the microphone so that I have the power. I do not. This is, in fact, all about you. You can find us at Hot News Radio on Twitter, and you can contact me personally on Twitter at SportsCloud. There's a big play happening in a game that I'm not watching. And that is possible. There's just going to be so many this week. You're going to have to leave some on the table. But if there's something that you think is funny or interesting or thought-provoking, I'd really love to hear from you. The people that I have been able to talk to, it's been really fun. So those are the places that you can interact. If you want to just listen, you're not in your car, your dial's not tuned to 1240 a.m., that's fine. HotNewsTalkRadio.com. Streaming live 24/7. And you can also find us on the TuneIn Radio app, absolutely free, in the Apple Store or the Google Play Store. Search Hot News Talk Radio, give us a follow, press play, and you will have Hot News Talk Radio wherever you go. And seriously about that TuneIn Radio app, I use it for everything. I do listen to Hot News Talk Radio. And there's some places where it's just not going to reach, where the signal's not going to reach. If you're inside an office building, stream it. Stream it. Just radio waves and concrete, they're not friends. So go ahead and stream that. So I'd like to talk to you about Tennessee and Alabama. This has been, look, we've been doing this thing since 1901. All right. And it's been pretty lopsided as of late. Alabama leads the series 51-38-7. And outside of that game against Florida that we all get charged up about, this is probably the most important one. Like this is one of the cool rivalries in college football that I think gets overlooked because of how lopsided it's been lately. And it's streaky, right? Because in the 90s, 80s, this rivalry went the other way. It went the orange way. So it's been sort of back and forth, just not as intensely back and forth as we'd like. You want those 1 to 2 year streaks because that makes the rivalry feel alive. But this is one of the great rivalries. And it's going to be an interesting game because you've got Tennessee that's playing for a lot of pride, that's playing to gain back a lot of dignity after a disappointing season so far. Just a lot of things didn't go their way. Oklahoma game didn't go their way. The Florida game didn't go their way. Very close games that just didn't pan out. Ultimately, Tennessee proved, I think, against Georgia that they can push the ball up the field, stretch the field. When they're aggressive, what that playbook looks like, that's a dangerous series of things. Okay. And I think that they have been playing too conservatively this season. And that's what bit them in the games that they lost, because they were leading those games. And you look at a team like Alabama, they're 6-1. They look amazing. They stomp on basically everyone, and maybe got buried up a little too early, but I think it's been them. They've been the class of the SEC for the entire season. I don't think there's anyone that's been better than them. LSU has been very, very good, but that's been a lot on Fournette and the quarterback play of LSU finally starting to catch up here in these last couple of games. I don't think that was a consistent thing with them. So now they're becoming multi-dimensional. Alabama has been. Offense, defense, they've got the total package. They're a dominant team. And I think everyone is basically looking at this game and going, look, Alabama's going to win it. I don't think that we have any doubts about that. What makes this game interesting is what's going to happen from kickoff to when the final whistle blows, because this could be a closer game than you think. Okay, I really honestly believe that. I think Tennessee puts up a very huge fight. I don't think that, I think what we did our picks. Mr. Judd and I both picked Alabama. Alabama is the 15.5 point favorite. I do think that Alabama does win ultimately by 15, but I don't think that it's from a start to finish, wire to wire victory. And I don't think that Tennessee has zero chance to win either. There are some things they're going to have to do to make this game look reasonable, to make this game look respectable, and to give themselves a chance to win it. They're going to have to rely on Josh Dobbs a lot. We talked to Bill Bender, college football writer of Sporting News. He came on the show yesterday, and one of the things that he mentioned was Josh Dobbs has to be good, not good, great. They're going to have to push the ball down the field, because Alabama would love it if Tennessee turned around and handed that ball off to Jalen Hurd and Alvin Kamara. They'd love it. Just try to run. That front seven of the Crimson Tide is ridiculous. And Reggie Ragland, the middle linebacker, he's been phenomenal. What has he got? 54 tackles this season already? I mean, he's been great. That is a hard bunch of guys to run against. I mean, good luck. Good luck. They would just love it if Tennessee turned around and handed the ball off to Jalen Hurd and said, go get us some yards. It's not going to happen, man. It's not going to happen. And I was worried. I was worried this season because I wasn't sure that Josh Dobbs could be the guy to push the ball up the field. I wasn't sure. Tennessee throws a lot of screen passes. They throw a lot of short passes. And I didn't know if that was just by their design that they were throwing all of those short passes, or if there was something about Dobbs that they were trying to hide, or if it was just Josh Dobbs' decision-making, that he just wasn't throwing the ball downfield. I don't know what it was. But last game against Georgia, we did learn something about Joshua Dobbs, which is that he can, in fact, throw the ball down the field if it calls for it. They needed to be aggressive. They needed to go downfield because of how far they were down to the Bulldogs. And that comeback was amazing, in part because Joshua Dobbs went down the field. Now, he did have some things helping him out. He threw to his tight ends in the seams, in the middle area of the field. Wasn't necessarily working the sidelines, wasn't necessarily spreading the ball out to every receiver, but the tight ends really helped him out. There were some mismatches down the field that they were able to exploit. And I think they're going to have to do that again if they want a shot at beating Alabama. Joshua Dobbs was responsible for 83% of the offense last week. That was the dual threat quarterback that we thought he could be. That's the guy that at the beginning of this season, Tennessee has got a chance to go the distance because they have Josh Dobbs. And he has been largely disappointing, in part, not because he's been bad, but he didn't build on what we thought he could be. I think we thought Joshua Dobbs was going to be that scary dual threat quarterback. He's an intelligent guy, smart guy. He's not just, being tricked by defenses. We just never saw the combination of arm strength and mobility from him that makes the dangerous dual threat quarterback that you recruit so highly. Like, that's what you want. What he was last week, that's what we were looking for all season. And we didn't necessarily see it all season. I keep saying last week, last game. Against Georgia, the Josh Dobbs that we got in that game, where he's, accounting for 500 yards of total offense and he's throwing or running 5 touchdowns. He's throwing 3 and running 2 himself. That's the Joshua Dobbs that we thought we were signing up for, and that's not what we necessarily got. And I don't think that's all on him. I do think that part of it is the Tennessee got to some leads in some games, and we know which ones, and then just got all conservative for no good reason. And that hurts. Because he's been, when they're aggressive, he's been very good. And he's going to have to be that good for them to even have a shot against the Crimson Tide. The Crimson Tide are incredibly difficult to run against, as I mentioned before. You cannot simply run on this team, and they're going to exploit Tennessee on their own offense. I mean, here's the thing about Alabama. Alabama's got Derrick Henry, and Derrick Henry, last game against A&M, he had 236 yards. He scored 12 touchdowns this season. He's gone 12 consecutive games with at least a touchdown. Dude's on fire. He is literally not mentioned as a Heisman candidate because Leonard Fournette exists, but he's good, man. Like, dude can really run. And that's going to help them throwing the ball. And once you start to pass the ball, you can pass against Tennessee. This is honestly, Tennessee's offense, for as much maligned as it is, that we wonder about how they can't go down the field, and we wonder whether consistently we can trust the running game. It's been good, but it hasn't been great. Tennessee's defense is the scariest part about them. The part about them that if you are a Vols fan, you ought to be most worried about. That secondary is bad. Okay, they've given up 29 big plays on offense to opposing offenses this season. 29 big plays to opposing offenses the Vols have given up. And big plays are defined as plays that are 20 yards or more. They've given up 29 big plays. 19 of those 29 big plays have been passes. They've been passes. 65. That's about 65%. 65% of the time, if the Vols give up a big play, it's a pass. You're more likely to just throw over all of them than run through all of them. So you keep running the ball with Derrick Henry because he is good enough to stabilize your offense. And then every now and then just test the top. If you're Alabama, you're Nick Saban, that's what you do. And it's probably going to work. And all the same, because of all of these moving parts and factors and how Tennessee has been able to step up at times on defense when they've needed to. The bend but don't break thing. But here's the thing, Alabama has been smashing through people. You don't want that kind of defense. You want a real defense, like a real punch-you-in-the-face defense. Tennessee doesn't really have that. This is AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. Clutch with Keon Rose. We're talking Vols, Crimson Tide, as part of the buffet of games that's showing up tomorrow. You could probably watch any game tomorrow and not really be disappointed because of how competitive I expect all of the games to be, especially the games represented in the SEC. You've got Arkansas and Auburn You've got A&M and Mississippi. There's going to be some good games for you to watch tomorrow. We will talk about those games later in the show. I'm just worried that the Vols are not necessarily. They have to take a lead in this game. Like I don't think they're necessarily going to win, but I'm worried that they're not necessarily going to hang around like I expect them to either, because I think about what they're capable of, and honestly, the things that I've seen from them, they are prone to underachieving. They have to stay aggressive. Butch Jones has to stay aggressive. If they have a lead, they need to keep it. They can't try and run it away, play not to lose. Gotta be tough. This is Clutch with Keon Rose on AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio.
This is America Now with Meghan McCain.
Al Gore running is crazy. You're flying around in your private jet all over the world, and you want average Americans to care about the environment. Don't you think you should be doing your part as well?
Meghan McCain, weekdays at 7 p.m.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
Fox News Talk 1240.
Tired of insurance companies? Tired of doctors that won't spend time with you? Do something different. Leave the sick care model of medicine and come to Dr. Danielle Mitchell, the Chattanooga Sports Institute and Center for Health, where we're interested in long-term health solutions, not the quick fixes. Come see me, Dr. Danielle Mitchell, at the Chattanooga Sports Institute and Center for Health. I'm all about the long-term healthcare solutions and doing what's best. On the web, you can find me at ChattanoogaSportsInstitute.com. That's ChattanoogaSportsInstitute.com. Or call us at 875-1005, 875-1005, or find us on social media, Facebook, Dr. Danielle Mitchell, or the ChattanoogaSportsInstitute.com. Let's go, ya!
Are you tired of working in corporate America, or have you recently lost your job and would like to consider owning your own business? If you are, please call me, as I can help you look at franchises or business opportunities that fit you, the economy that we're in, and the type of businesses that are right in the greater Chattanooga area. After I help my clients find the right opportunity, I also help them find the best way to finance the business, including paying yourself through the startup phase. If you would like to learn more about opportunities that may be right for you, please call me for a free assessment. My name is Bruce Krebs at the Entrepreneur Source. Phone number is 423-875-5621.
Hi, this is your computer speaking. I don't feel so well. It's like I've come down with a bug, and I'm getting slower.
Affordable Computers. We fix sick computers. Your hometown guys at Affordable Computers will repair your PC in half the time of the big boys at an affordable price. No tricks, no gimmicks, no computer speak technobabble. Just good, quick, and courteous affordable service and repairs. Want to affordably supercharge your PC? Affordable Computers on Highway 58. Affordable Computers hand builds all desktops in-house. If you're looking for a better-than-new refurb laptop, $150 will get you a Dell or another name brand at Affordable Computers. Affordable Computers, Highway 58, between Arby's and Taco Bell. Also Fort O, Battlefield Parkway, near Holcomb's. Affordable Computers, we service what we sell. Call 499-1975. That's 499-1975.
Wow, this is amazing. I'm feeling great. Supercharged.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Costa, host of the Costa Report, every Sunday at 9 a.m. Did you know that a quarter of the world's population will experience mental illness? My guest this week is former Congressman Patrick Kennedy, who says the United Nations must make mental illness a priority. Find out why this Sunday at 9 a.m. on the Costa Report, right here on AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
Fox News Talk 1240.
Make sure you check out Tennessee, Alabama. That's going to be an interesting one. Not that I have to tell you that or remind you to check out your team, but I'm just talking out loud here, okay? I'm just talking out loud. All right. It's been a long day. And here's the thing about Tennessee. This season could have been so different, just one or two possessions different. And I think that Butch Jones is in part responsible for just some of the decisions that ended up being made, especially in that Florida game. I was so disappointed in him in that Florida game because of just how knuckleheaded some of those calls were. It was just so overly conservative that you look down at your little chart that tells you that you should kick a field goal when you need to go for two. Just logically, like you need to go for two. I was disappointed. It didn't make any sense to me. Didn't make any sense. But here's Tennessee. They redeemed themselves against Georgia somewhat. Like you realize, okay, they can hang with the big guys. They can beat the big guys, especially in a team like Georgia. Lambert was playing pretty well. Look, it's just weird. It's just weird that they just fell apart the way that they did in all of those games that they fell apart. Oklahoma, you have them dead to rights. Got to come away with that win. I mean, there's no need to go into overtime with them. You were winning by 17. But Tennessee seems to play better from behind, which makes sense. As long as they're not allowed to become ultra conservative, they actually play very well, and you start to see the talent that was recruited for this team. They need to be aggressive, and not just start aggressively, but if they should so happen to get a lead against Alabama early, stay aggressive. Playing not to lose against the Tide only works to their advantage. They are better in almost every position on the field except maybe quarterback. And I'll give the advantage to Tennessee and Josh Dobbs, and he's got to go down the field. He's just got to throw the ball down the field. And I don't care if you hit any of those wide receivers because they have been fast and they have been good, but I think that maybe they're in and out of the game too often. They need to be able to finish possessions, and I don't think they get that opportunity. Just things, man. Just things. Another game that I think is pretty interesting is against Auburn, Arkansas. Okay, you got two teams here that are not ranked, but it's such an interesting game. It's such an interesting game, and it's interesting almost in part because of the coaches involved. Gus Malzahn, Brett Bielema. Brett Bielema, of course, is the coach that you know that will not shut up. Brett Bielema just loves to talk. And I think that, honestly, I feel like he's made Arkansas a more interesting team than they probably ought to be over the years because he will not shut his face. He just talks and talks and talks. You know, he's talking about, you know, they beat Texas to death in their bowl game last year. And Brett Bielema is talking about how that is just borderline orgasmic, he says. It's funny. It's funny, like when you're not involved with that team at all, it's funny. It annoys you if you have to play against him. If he's winning and you're an Arkansas fan, oh, that's great. Brett Bielema is amazing if you're winning, an Arkansas fan. When Brett Bielema is losing and you're Arkansas fan, and we have Mr. Judd here. He does the Mr. Judd show from 11 to noon. Mr. Judd is an Arkansas fan. I mean, he's got the license plate. He's about Arkansas. But because the Razorbacks are losing, they're 2-4 this season, Brett Bielema needs to stop talking just to at least make those people happy. Because it gets old real fast. Like, guy who will not shut up, that act gets old really fast when you're not winning. Like, it's him. Rex Ryan in the NFL is that guy also. You just have guys that you're just like, really? Did you actually say those words out loud? Is that not a thing that you could have just thought? Brett Bielema is that guy. He's guy that will not shut up. You have him at your job. You know that guy. And if you don't know that guy, you might be that guy. That guy is probably you. If you don't know guy who will not shut up, you are a guy who will not shut up. Probably. I don't have to speak in absolutes there. You are most likely guy who will not shut up. That's Bret Bielema. And Gus Malzahn, former offensive coordinator for Bret Bielema, he's the opposite. And honestly, Auburn fans will put up with a lot more from Malzahn because he just keeps things even keel, doesn't say too much. You know, this is obviously a big game for him. Going back to Arkansas, you know, his home state. This is obviously a big game for him, but he's not making a big deal out of it. And we like that better than what Bielema does. And Bret Bielema is 0-2 against Gus Malzahn. For all of the talking and the ribbing and the public things that he has said over the last couple of seasons, Bielema hasn't actually beaten Gus, which is weird. Like, you know, typically, guy comes as he's a branch off of your coaching tree. Usually, I mean, at first anyway, you get the better of him, right? No, the Auburn's just been better. They say that styles make fights. Bielema versus Malzahn is a cool one. Auburn plays up-tempo. That up-tempo style. We're going to hurry up. We're going to play fast. And Bielema prefers the pro style. We're running a lot. Actually, I think maybe it's something beyond pro style even. Because if you look at the NFL and how they pass the ball these days, it's something even beyond that. Bret Bielema really loves to run the football. And if you look at the guys that he has recruited for that team and the way that they play, he really loves to run the football a lot. So this is going to be just an interesting matchup in terms of which style is going to control the game more. The style that tries to score a lot or the style that tries to possess the clock. And if it weren't so contradictory, right, to how the coaches work, like there's just so much narrative in this game that even though this game is basically to play to see who is not at the bottom of the SEC West, essentially, just looking at the schedules, there is so much intrigue here. There's so much. I mean, you've got Bret Bielema, who's going to probably see Gus Malzahn in his nightmares if they lose to Auburn again. Arkansas is at home. They're 6.5-point favorite. But for whatever reason, I feel like Auburn's better. And Mr. Judd, when we did our picks, we were talking about it. He doesn't know why Arkansas's favored in this game. I know that they're at home, but it still doesn't make any sense. It still doesn't make any sense. The way that Arkansas has been playing this season, which is not, I'm not going to go as far as Mr. Judd goes, which is that he believes this is a catastrophe, right? Like this is of the highest order. We expected a lot more from Arkansas, them being 2-4. How could that possibly have happened? I don't think that was out of the realm of possibility from the beginning for them to be 2-4, but it was definitely not the likely scenario there, especially with some of the games that they've lost. That Arkansas, on their schedule, lost to Toledo in a 16-12 game. I mean, just like unlikely things. They lost to Texas Tech. Texas Tech is terrible. I know they had that shootout game with TCU and TCU barely escaped. TCU doesn't play defense. That's their fault. Texas Tech is awful. I don't know how you go about losing to them. And I certainly don't know how, because Texas Tech doesn't play defense either. Here's the thing. And you only scored 24 points on a school that really, like, they don't play defense. That means the Big 12 thing as a whole, but like Texas Tech in particular does not defend against anyone very well. And Arkansas came into the season very much ranked, and so it's just such a disappointing season. Brett Bielema is coaching for his life here, and in my opinion, I just don't see how you can do all of that talking, fail to back it up, and then, you know, your former coordinators over there pounding your butt literally every season. Like, just every season, he is just finding a way to destroy you. This is the third season that you're running into him, and sure, maybe Vegas is just trying to pull one over on all of us with that 6.5 point line, because I just don't get it. But honestly, Arkansas can't beat Auburn the way that they are currently constructed. Now, again, we had Bill Bender on from Sporting News here on Clutch with Keon Rose yesterday, and he talked about what was so disappointing about Auburn this season, because many people picked them to win the SEC, and then the Auburn's had their handful of disappointing losses as well. Now, they managed to be 4-2. Okay, they have come through the quote-unquote crucible, but kind of one of their own creation, because they lose games. They beat Jacksonville State in overtime, which is, okay, I mean, thank goodness you won that game, but you had no business being with Jacksonville State in overtime. That's the school that you picked to put on that schedule to beat up. And they made you guys look foolish. Okay, you got destroyed by LSU, but really, who doesn't at this point? Leonard Fournette ate about 3 Auburn players, and we still haven't seen them yet. And then the loss to Mississippi State, which is a team that has got Dak Prescott and nobody else but Dak Prescott. It's mind-boggling. Like, there are only 2 losses, but they're mind-boggling losses. And then you've got the one almost loss to Jacksonville State that is a mind-boggling victory, because you shouldn't have been anywhere near them. And then the San Jose State game, which won by a couple of touchdowns. And then they beat Kentucky last week by 3. It's rough. It's just looking really rough. That's all I'm saying. That even the victories haven't been convincing to me. This is AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio Clutch with Keon Rose. So you just have a couple of teams here that you've got the team that is winning games that they ought to win, but somehow they feel deep down inside morally like losses. Like, if there's such a thing as a moral victory, then these are moral losses. That victory over Jacksonville State, that's a moral loss. You're much better than that team. I don't know how that happens. That is a moral loss. That victory over San Jose State, that's kind of a moral loss. Really ought not to have lost to Mississippi State. I don't know how in the world that happens. And they just didn't get everything out of their quarterback play. And Chad Kelly, who at times has looked like one of the best quarterbacks in college football, and then at times has looked, in a way, just lost and confused and bewildered. But at least you can say Auburn's getting it done. And Gus Malzahn, to his eternal credit, doesn't run his mouth, which buys him a little bit more time with his public. You know what I mean? Like, people aren't going to look at Auburn and go, what's wrong with Gus? We're going to look at Auburn and go, what's wrong with Auburn? Because Brett Bielema talks so much, which is why this is such a great game to me. Because Brett Bielema makes a lot of Arkansas games great games before you have to watch them, because he won't shut up. Because Brett Bielema talks so much, when there's something wrong with Arkansas, you don't ask what's wrong with Arkansas. You ask what's wrong with Brett Bielema. He brings it on himself. He does this to himself. And if he could just find like a couple of weeks to just disappear, like, oh, we haven't heard from Brett Bielema in a little bit. Where'd he go? What happened? Like, that wouldn't be the worst thing ever. I'm not saying people have to shut up or anything like that. I've been opposed to that. I'd rather have honest Brett Bielema than lying Brett Bielema. But for his own good and for the people who want that team to succeed, like, maybe just hide for like a little bit, like just a week or two of just nothing. This is Clutch with Keon Rose, AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio. We've got one more preview for you coming up next.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Are you tired of feeling like just another account number to your financial advisor? Try something refreshingly different. Call Edward Jones Financial Advisor Patrick Neal in Hickson at 870-7894. Edward Jones, making sense of investing. Member SIPC.
We've got a table here at Delia's in Saudi Daisy, ready to delight in a plate of authentic Mexican food. Delia's spreads a rich selection: loaded nachos, crazy chicken, homemade tamales, maybe the enchiladas with beef, chicken, pork, quesadillas. Every dish beautifully pictured on the menu to help us decide. Join us for lunch or dinner. We're at Delia's in Saudi Daisy on Dayton Pike near the Thrasher Light. Here's dinner. Delia's uses the freshest ingredients, cooked to perfection. Nachos, homemade. Delia's open every day except the Lord's Day. For lunch and dinner, treat yourself to Delia's genuine Mexican food. In Saudi, call 521-7145. That's 521-7145.
Social media, we're on that. Hot News Talk Radio on Facebook, at Hot News Talk Radio on Twitter. Download the TuneIn app and follow us anywhere at any time. AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio.
So there's a whole buffet of games this Saturday. You can pick whichever one you want to watch. I recommend Tennessee, Alabama for all the ramifications of that. Butch Jones, his toasty seat, not ready to call it the hot seat yet, but the better Tennessee performs in this game, and they don't necessarily have to win it, but if they perform well, looks really good on him. Nick Saban's got nothing to prove really, but 6-1, wants to be 7-1. You want to be in that playoff conversation at the end of the season. Don't see how Alabama doesn't get it if they win out. So that's a game with a lot of ramifications. Auburn and Arkansas, because Bielema, really, he just, when you are rooting for that team whose head coach or star player or even not star player is guy who will not shut up, that is got to be one of the most frustrating things in sports. And I've been fortunate enough, I think, in my life to not have that happen to me. You want the borderline guy. I'm a Texas fan. Charlie Strong is borderline guy who will not shut up, but he doesn't actually go out and provoke people. He doesn't poke the bear. And so he is not in reality guy who will not shut up. You know, that's what you want. You want to be close to the line. You don't necessarily want Butch Jones, who is a guy who will not say anything real or true or interesting. A guy who makes excuses for things before the thing has actually happened. You know, Florida's defense is one of the best defenses I've ever seen. Like, okay, Butch, but like, can you talk about how we plan on beating that? Because that's what the people want to hear. Guy who will not say anything at all is equally as annoying to whatever fan base he's involved with than, or as guy who will not shut up. But guy who will not shut up gives you and leaves you with very specific things that you can point to and hate. And that's Bret Bielema. And he's always going to be interesting like that. And him at Arkansas going up against Gus Malzahn, his former coordinator, and they've had a history of a war of words just going back and forth. And Bielema has done some things that may or may not have been sketchy, let's say, the injury tactics on the field and all those things. I mean, you don't want it to ever come to all of that, but Bret Bielema makes this game interesting. He's going to say Bret Bielema things. If they win, which is what I picked Auburn in our picks, but I really, if Arkansas wins, I just want someone to just shove a microphone into Bret Bielema's face We're going to hear what he has to say. All right, our last game that we're going to be looking at is as part of this buffet slate of games. And that's all coming from the SEC, by the way, because that, like, these games, how do you choose one to watch? They are all so interesting. They're also interesting, and two of them at least have some kind of national ramification because, of course, if Alabama were to lose to Tennessee, that whole firestorm there, that would be incredible. What would be happening there? And in this game, you've got A&M against Mississippi, Ole Miss. And it's interesting because Chad Kelly has been very good for Mississippi. He's been very good. I don't know why. Let me put it this way. I don't know why Mississippi gets tripped up by some of the games that they get tripped up by. It seems to me because they haven't just been beaten. Okay, they've been pounded. When they have lost, their two losses this season have come to Florida and Memphis. Florida, the way Florida was playing defense this season, that makes sense. Not sense that they lose 38-10. Like that to me just shows that you're just not moving the ball at all to get beaten like that. But the loss to Memphis doesn't make any sense. We did the picks on that show. Memphis was undefeated. They were 6-0. Now they're 7-0. And we're looking at Memphis and going, okay, like you've done your nice Conference USA thing, but now you're playing against an SEC school. Can you really maintain 7-0? Like, can you really stay undefeated? And Memphis ran through Ole Miss like they were not even there. Okay? The quarterback Paxton Lynch threw for 384 yards and 3 touchdowns. That's not defense. That's Texas Tech defense. That's TCU defense. That's not a real defense. The 384 yards and 3 touchdowns to Memphis. Now, Paxton Lynch was playing well, and Paxton Lynch has been playing well all season long. But I would never believe that Memphis would have taken Ole Miss to task quite like that. Quite like that. Meanwhile, Chad Kelly, production's kind of slowing down these last few games. He's been looking a lot less than what he was earlier. He was looking, I don't want to say unstoppable, but he looked video game-esque. And part of that, of course, is that early in the schedule you had Fresno State to beat up on. They absolutely took Fresno State to the woodshed, 73-21, and they played Tennessee Martin to start their season and beat them 76-3. So you've got schools there that you whooped up on that you knew you were going to beat, right? But you play Alabama, you hang in there. They beat you 43-37. Beat Vanderbilt 27-16. You know, like nobody thinks that like you ought to be taken apart by Memphis. They beat you by 13 points. That's about a couple of touchdowns. Okay, and they got a potent offense, Mississippi does, so it just seems weird. Like they're 11th overall in offense in the nation. Defensively, they're 42nd. So it's not like they ever had an elite defense, but come on. Paxton Lynch is taking you apart for 348 and 3 touchdowns. It's a little crazy. And Kyle Allen now comes in and he's sophomore. Okay, he's been playing all right. He's got 14 touchdowns, 5 interceptions on the season. The offense of A&M, it kind of fluctuates. That's just what it is with them, I guess. I mean, they're 5-1 for a reason. They only lost to Alabama. But it also doesn't, like, it's not like they played anybody amazing. Arizona State, which everyone expected them to lose, but then Arizona State went on to prove that maybe wasn't the worst thing ever because Arizona State didn't look that great either. Ball State, which is You put them on there to beat them, and you did, 56-23. Nevada, they're not good. Arkansas, Bielema. What else is to say about that? Mississippi State, which again is Dak Prescott playing offense with 10 guys. That I could invite 9 friends to play at Mississippi State with Dak Prescott, and the result would be more or less the same because that there's just not a team there. They're just not good. Okay, that's just not a good team that they have down there. And A&M, so A&M beats them, and then they lose to Alabama. So they haven't played the meat of their schedule yet. They finished the rest of their schedule in conference. So whether or not Texas A&M is actually good, that is going to be determined by the games that they have left outside of the Western Carolina game that they've got. Because they've got Ole Miss next, South Carolina, Auburn, Western Carolina, like I mentioned before, Vanderbilt, and then they finish with LSU. So at some point, we're going to find out very shortly if Texas A&M is actually good or if they're doing this fake good thing because we beat Mississippi State with nobody on it, Arkansas with Brett Bielema going full Bielema, Nevada, Ball State, and Arizona State. I mean, this not a great, it's not a tough schedule that they've played so far. It's just not. And I don't know if A&M's for real. And Mississippi State, or not Mississippi State, but Ole Miss, I know that the 5 games that they've won so far have been, it's a similar thing with them. The back part of this schedule, it's the reverse of Tennessee. Like Tennessee, in fairness to them, for the way their record looks now at 2-4, they've already gone through the crucible. Like they ought to win out from here on out because there isn't anything left on that schedule. They have played all the tough games that you need to play. They've pretty much done that already. What you're seeing with Ole Miss and what you're seeing with A&M, when they play each other this week, the main storyline is, are either of these teams actually real teams? They both have 5 wins. Mississippi's got 2 losses. A&M's got 1. And neither of them have actually played anyone. Not really. Are these teams for real teams? I would like to think that at least Mississippi is. I want to say Mississippi is. I can't say the same thing for Texas A&M. Me and A&M have some problems. One of which is that Texas A&M, their Big 12 is showing. I know they're in the SEC now, but they haven't been in here long enough. Their Big 12 is showing. They are 58th in the nation in overall defense. It's not very good. They're 93rd in the nation against the run. They allow about 95 yards a game against the run. So we're not looking at a very elite unit of defensive players here for A&M. Now they are capable of causing turnovers. They're very good at that. And this is Clutch with Keon Rose on AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. Never have a problem with A&M and causing turnovers, but they don't stop anybody really. And I think that's ultimately a problem. And offensively, they're okay. Like Kyle Allen's all right. Nobody really stands out on the team. Maybe Christian Kirk, the wide receiver, he's really good, but like nobody else. And so I'm wondering, like, are these numbers just like, what's the deal with the numbers? Because here's the thing with stats. You can interpret them like any way that you want to. Okay, if somehow A&M had been losing all of these games, then you're like, the numbers explain why they're losing. They're winning these games. So are they winning despite the stats, or are they an actual good team? That's the question that's going to start to be answered here for both Ole Miss and Texas A&M. And that's why this is one of probably the more interesting games of the weekend. I would say probably the most interesting game of the weekend. But I just love how all of these teams are starting to collide now. Like this is what we're talking about. And LSU and Alabama coming up in the future, that's going to be probably one of the top games this season. Outside of maybe the Michigan State game, which broke a bunch of records itself, just how crazy that game was. And what was it? Like it's the highest viewed game in the history of college football in that 3:30 time slot. And the stats go all the way back to 1990. So that is, in 25 years, that is the most highly viewed 3:30 game. It's pretty crazy. I think LSU and Alabama could beat that pretty handily. I wouldn't say it would destroy it, but if that game is close, there's no doubt about it. That game is going to be a ratings killer. So those are my 3 games. In case you missed the show earlier, the 3 games to look out for: Tennessee, Alabama, Auburn at Arkansas, because Bielema and Brett Bielema saying Bielema things, and Texas A&M versus Ole Miss. Which of these teams is a real team, and which one of these teams is faking? I think that the answer will be the winner of that game. Thank you so much for joining me. This is AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, and the TuneIn Radio app in the Apple Store and Google Play Store. It's absolutely free. Go ahead and watch the football tomorrow. This is Clutch with Keon Rose, and I will see you Monday at 1.
Compass Media Network's coverage of the NFL. Hi, this is Jerry Recco. Join Kevin Ray, Danny White, and myself for all the action.
Hot News Talk 1240.
If it's the NFL, it's right here.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
Hot News Talk 1240.
Cell Surgeon, an affordable quick fix for your smartphone and tablet in Northgate Mall next to Old Chicago Pizza.
We do the best quality work. We have the best customer